Okay, guys, we are winding down factoring. We're almost done with it. I attached today a piece of material. It's under material on Google Classroom it's called Factoring Completely. That's just a good handout. We're going to use that next assignment, but that's in general a really good one to just hang on to, because it's like a step-by-step roadmap of what to do when, because eventually these problems are just going to say factor, and you have to know which one is which, okay? So we're looking at factoring the special cases we just multiplied the other day. Perfect square trinomials, difference of squares. So I'm going to be taking problems off of page 251 in your workbook, if you want to have that handy. Okay, so let's look at PST. So what I want to have you remember, PST stands for perfect square. Perfect square, what does that mean? That means something times itself equals a number. So this is huge. But in recognizing this, we're going to remember that the T means trinomial. So that's also really important, because it's got to be 3 terms. So we want 3 terms where actually 2 of them are going to be perfect squares. Okay, so number 1 on page 251 is h squared plus 10h plus 25. Let's use this to write the procedure for what we need. So in looking at this, how do we know that this is even going to fit this procedure we're going to do? Because if it's called a perfect square trinomial, it means the first one's going to be a perfect square, and the last one's going to be a perfect square. Now notice there's no negative in front of here. This has to be an even exponent. But this one, you notice I circled the plus sign too, because this has to be positive in order to be a PST, because you can't take something and multiply it by itself and get a positive anything unless those signs are the same. So this has to be positive when we are identifying it. So okay, so we do have perfect squares on both ends, so we're going to try perfect square trinomial. So what you're going to do is you are going to first, I think I'll change this to an A. We got too many ones going on. So number 1, make 1 set of parentheses. And put a squared after it. Because think about it. If we have a perfect square trinomial, even take off the trinomial part, that's a perfect square. So that means it's something squared. So like if we had a perfect square, then that's 10 squared, right? So that's what we're doing here. It's following the same format. Okay, so in this case, we're going to make 1 set of parentheses squared. We'll come back to that and write it in. Secondly, take the square root of the first term and place it in the first spot. So the first term was a h squared. What's the square root of h squared? What times itself is h squared? H. So that goes there. Take the square root of the last